She banned the child from the pool, but the mother's reaction shocked everyone. A little boy ran toward the pool, his small feet slapping against the warm pavement, laughter spilling out as he clutched his goggles tight. The air was full of splashes, laughter, and summer joy. Just as he reached the edge, ready to jump in, a hand grabbed his arm. "You don't belong here," the woman snapped, her grip firm. Landon froze. His smile faded as confusion clouded his bright face. I live here," he stammered, pointing toward the gate where his mother, Jasmine, had just entered. The woman didn't let go. "I don't know you. I've never seen you before. This pool is for residents only." At that moment, Jasmine's eyes locked onto her son. She saw his little body held back, fear creeping into his posture, and her heart dropped. "Excuse me?" Jasmine said, hurrying over. "That's my son." The woman turned to face her, her voice calm but sharp. "I'm just making sure strangers don't use our pool." Jasmine stood protectively beside Landon, her voice steady. "We are not strangers. We live here. We've been here for 6 months." The woman raised an eyebrow, clearly unconvinced. "Really? I've never seen either of you." "We've used the community center, but this is our first time at the pool," Jasmine explained, keeping her tone polite, though she could feel tension rising inside her. "Well, I'm sorry, but if I don't recognize you, I can't just let your son in." "We've had trouble with people sneaking in before," the woman said. Jasmine gently pulled Landon toward her. He clung to her hand, confused and quiet now. "Look," Jasmine said, her voice calm but firmer now. "We are residents. We pay the same fees everyone else here does. My son has every right to swim." People around the pool started noticing the scene. Some were glancing over their sunglasses. A few had paused their conversations, the air growing heavier. The woman didn't back down. "If that's true, you won't mind showing me some proof, will you?" Jasmine felt something shift in her chest. It wasn't just about the pool anymore. It was about how her son was being treated, like an outsider in his own neighborhood. "Are you asking every family here for proof?" Jasmine asked quietly. The woman hesitated. "No, but..." "But what?" Jasmine cut in. "But we don't. Look like everyone else here?" The silence that followed was thick. A couple at a nearby table stopped their card game. A teenage lifeguard looked up from her phone. The woman didn't respond. Landon looked up at his mom. "Did I do something wrong?" he whispered. Jasmine knelt down beside him, brushing his curls from his forehead. "No, sweetie, you did nothing wrong. Sometimes people just don't understand." The woman crossed her arms, still watching them. "We have rules for a reason." Jasmine stood up slowly. "We follow the rules. But what just happened? This isn't about the rules. It's about how you're making my son feel. He came here to swim, not to be treated like he doesn't belong." The woman opened her mouth, then closed it again. Just then, a man from across the pool called out, "I've seen her at the community center before. They live here." Someone else chimed in. "I saw them at the holiday event a couple months ago." The woman's expression flickered, just for a second. But Jasmine wasn't looking for apologies. She was looking at her son, who was still holding her hand tightly, unsure if it was okay to smile again. She bent down and looked him in the eyes. "You want to swim?" He nodded quietly. She stood up and looked around the pool. "Then go ahead." Landon hesitated for a moment, then ran and jumped in. The splash he made echoed across the water. Laughter returned to his face as he bobbed. "Up!" goggles askew. Jasmine stayed where she was, her arms crossed now. She wasn't angry. She was clear, calm, determined. Some of the parents gave her small nods. A few looked away, uncomfortable. But the silence around the pool had changed. It wasn't judgment now. It was reflection. The woman, arms still crossed, stood a few steps away, saying nothing. Jasmine didn't need her approval. She had come here for one reason, to let her son swim on a sunny afternoon. And that's exactly what he was going to do, even if it meant standing up in front of everyone to remind them. They belonged here too. The water shimmered in the afternoon sun, but Jasmine wasn't looking at the pool. She was watching her son float on his back, arms stretched wide, a soft smile creeping back onto his face. For a moment, she felt relief. Then, from the corner of her eye, she saw the woman again, still standing, still watching. Jasmine knew that look. She'd seen it before. The type that didn't always yell or curse, but made you feel small in quiet, cutting ways. It was the kind that made you question yourself, like maybe you really didn't belong. And this time, it wasn't aimed at her. It was aimed at her son. She turned slightly, catching the woman's eye. The woman didn't flinch. She just pursed her lips and adjusted her sunglasses like nothing had happened. But everyone had seen, even if they pretended not to. Across the pool, two women whispered to each other, their heads tilted toward the scene like it was something they couldn't look away from, but didn't want to be caught watching. A man standing near the shallow glanced from Jasmine to the woman, then down at his phone. Landon climbed out of the pool and ran back over, dripping with water and beaming. "Did you see me, Mom? I did my best cannonball." Jasmine smiled and knelt to hug him, not caring that her dress got wet. "I saw, baby. You were amazing." He giggled and leaned in closer. "Is that lady still mad?" Jasmine glanced over. "Don't worry about her," she said. "You keep being you." But deep inside, Jasmine felt a tight knot forming. It wasn't just about today. It was about every quiet moment when she felt eyes follow her at the grocery store. About the way people sometimes stepped aside a little too quickly in the elevator. About all the polite smiles that never quite reached the eyes. She stood and took Landon's hand. "Let's get some water, okay?" As they walked to the refreshment table near the back fence, Jasmine overheard someone mutter under their breath, "Well, if she really lives here, what's the big deal? Just show proof." Another person replied, a little louder, "Would you ask a white family to do that?" Silence followed. That silence said more than words. At the table, Jasmine poured 2 cups of water, her hands steady. She noticed a young man nearby watching her carefully. He nodded at her. "I just want to say," he began awkwardly, "I saw what happened. That wasn't okay. I'm sorry." She looked up at him and nodded. "Thank you." He glanced back, toward the pool. People like her, they act like they're keeping the community safe, but really, they're just making it smaller. Jasmine looked at Landon, who was busy sipping his water through a blue straw. "You'd think it would be different by now," she said, her voice quiet. The man shrugged. "It is, slowly, because of people like you." A few minutes later, the woman, still standing with crossed arms, raised her phone and started dialing. Jasmine noticed it instantly. She knew the posture, knew what was coming. "She's calling someone," Jasmine said aloud, not raising her voice but letting it be heard. A lifeguard near the pool perked up. "Calling who?" he asked. "Security?" "I think," Jasmine replied. "She doesn't believe we live here." The tension snapped again. Conversations died down. The breeze was the only sound for a moment. "She's serious?" a woman said. Jasmine stepped forward, calm but direct. "We've lived here for 6 months. I've paid every HOA fee. My son's name is on the community kids roster. But she's decided that's not enough." Landon tugged her arm gently. "Are we in trouble?" Jasmine kneeled beside him. "No, sweetheart. We're not in trouble. We're telling the truth. And we're not going anywhere." Someone nearby, an older man with gray hair and a towel draped around his shoulders, stepped closer. "Ma'am, he said to the woman. "I've seen them before. They belong here. There's no need to call anyone." But the woman didn't stop. She turned away slightly, phone to her ear, speaking into it. "Yes, I need security at the pool." "There's a woman here, claiming she lives here but won't show ID." Jasmine's stomach turned. The word claiming stung. It turned her presence into a question, her life into a doubt. Jasmine reached for her phone slowly, not to make a scene, but to make a point. She tapped record, held the phone in front of her, and said in a clear voice, "My name is Jasmine. I live at 1542 Oakwood Drive. My son and I are here at the community pool we've helped pay for. And right now, someone is trying to have us removed because she doesn't believe we belong." The phone captured her calm expression, Landon standing quietly beside her, and the crowd that had started to gather. It caught the woman's voice in the background, still trying to spin the story to whoever was on the other end of the call. Jasmine continued, "This is what it looks like when you follow all the rules and still get treated like you don't belong." She ended the recording and looked around. A few people looked away, ashamed, but others met her gaze, eyes soft, finally seeing what was really happening. Jasmine knew this moment wasn't just about her and Landon anymore. It was about the kind of community they all wanted to live in, and who they were willing to be when it really mattered. The air around the pool felt heavier now. People weren't swimming anymore. The kids still in the water had gone quiet, sensing something was off. The adults stood around the edges, watching. Some whispered, some stayed silent, but everyone knew something important was happening. Jasmine stood still, phone in hand, her posture calm but steady. Landon was holding her hand tightly now, no longer smiling. His eyes, wide and unsure, kept darting between his mom and the woman still on the phone. "Why doesn't she believe us?" he asked in a small voice. Jasmine crouched beside him. "Because sometimes people only believe what they want to. But that doesn't make them right." Just then, the woman ended her call and turned back around. "Security is on their way," she announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. "They'll clear this up." Jasmine looked at her. "You could have cleared this up yourself if you'd just listened." The woman gave her a tight smile. "I'm just following protocol." From the side, someone scoffed. A middle-aged woman in a straw hat and sunglasses shook her head. "Protocol?" she muttered. "Since when do we call security on kids wanting to swim?" Another voice joined in. "She said they live here. Why isn't that enough?" The woman seemed rattled for the first time. "This is about safety," she said quickly. "We've had incidents before, people sneaking in." Jasmine raised an eyebrow. "Did those people have their 8-year-old kids with them and swim goggles in hand?" Someone in the crowd chuckled softly, but Jasmine didn't smile. This wasn't funny to her. It was exhausting. She looked back at her phone and, with a deep breath, hit post. The short video she had just recorded was now live in the community Facebook group. She didn't add much, just a caption. "This is what my son and I experienced today at our community pool. We live here." But apparently that wasn't enough. She hit send and slipped the phone into her bag. Across the pool deck, a man tapped on his own phone. He looked at Jasmine. "I just saw your video. It's already up." The woman folded her arms tighter. "Posting videos doesn't prove anything." "No," Jasmine said calmly, "but they show everything." More people had their phones out now, checking the group, reading comments, whispering. Within minutes, replies started coming in. "I've seen her at HOA meetings. She's definitely a resident." "I can't believe someone would treat a child like that. This isn't the community I thought I lived in." The woman's confidence wavered, just slightly. She reached for her purse, pulling her sunglasses down again, trying to look like she didn't care. Then the hum of a golf cart engine broke the silence. The small white cart pulled up just outside the pool fence. Painted across the side in blue, Oakwood Security. From it stepped an older man with salt and pepper hair and a no-nonsense look in his eyes. His name tag read simply, Mr. Johnson. The woman immediately straightened up and waved him over. Over here. Thank goodness you're here, she said quickly. There's an issue. This woman and her child? But Mr. Johnson raised a hand gently. Let me talk to everyone first. He turned to Jasmine, his expression neutral but respectful. Ma'am, could I get your name and address, please? Jasmine nodded. Jasmine Thompson, 1542 Oakwood Drive. Mr. Johnson pulled out a small tablet and tapped a few times. It was quiet, just the soft breeze and the distant buzz of a lawnmower. After a moment, he looked up. Thank you, ma'am. You and your son are registered residents of Oakwood Estates. You are fully authorized to use all community amenities, including this pool. The words rang out like a bell. Several people let out relieved sighs. A few clapped quietly. The woman's face turned red. But I've never seen them before. How was I supposed to know? Mr. Johnson turned to her. His voice was even. That's why we check. Not assume. Not accuse. She opened her mouth to respond, but then closed it again. Landon looked up at his mom. So we're okay? Jasmine smiled softly and nodded. We're more than okay. She walked with Landon back toward the lounge chairs, settling down again while he ran off, to jump back into the pool, this time without hesitation. As he splashed into the water, the crowd slowly started to break apart. People picked up conversations again. Some apologized to Jasmine. A few stayed back, watching her quietly, still unsure, still thinking. But Jasmine had done enough explaining for today. She leaned back in the chair, letting the sun warm her. Of course her phone buzzed. More comments, more shares. Some messages of support from people she hadn't even met yet. She opened one. I'm so sorry this happened to you and your son. Thank you for posting. We needed to see this. And Jasmine smiled. Not because it was over, but because something had started. This was bigger than one afternoon. It was a shift. And she knew deep down things were about to change. For her, for Landon, and maybe for the whole neighborhood. That evening, Jasmine sat on her couch, feet tucked under her, a blanket draped over her lap, watching the light from her phone screen glow in the dim room. Notifications rolled in non-stop. The video had taken off faster than she expected. People were sharing it across the neighborhood page. Some added their own comments. Others sent Jasmine private messages. A few were from people she'd seen in passing but had never spoken to. Others were complete strangers. Jasmine, I had no idea this was happening right here in our neighborhood. That woman was out of line. You handled it with so much grace. Please don't let this discourage you. We want families like yours here. It was a lot. Some of the messages made her tear up. Others made her angry. Like the one that read, well, you can't blame her for being careful. Some people don't exactly look like they belong in Oakwood. Jasmine didn't reply to that one. She didn't have to. The replies underneath it had already called the person out. She leaned back into the couch cushion, closed her eyes for a moment, and exhaled deeply. Landon was asleep in his room, finally calm again after such a strange and emotional day. He had asked her 3 times at dinner if they were really allowed to go back to the pool. Each time, Jasmine reassured him, but it hurt more every time he asked. This wasn't about pool rules anymore. It never had been. It was about how someone made an 8-year-old boy feel like he was invisible, like he didn't belong in his own neighborhood. Jasmine opened the Facebook app again, and at the top of the group page, there was a new post from the HOA president. Emergency HOA meeting. Scheduled, addressing community concerns and inclusion. Date, tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the community center. All residents encouraged to attend. She stared at it for a while. The boldness of that headline, inclusion, it gave her pause. She wasn't sure if it would lead to anything real. Sometimes communities made statements just to save face, to smooth things over without ever fixing what was underneath. But this felt different. When she clicked into the comments, she saw people tagging their neighbors. "We should go. This is overdue. I want to hear Jasmine speak." That last comment stopped her. She hadn't planned on speaking. She hadn't planned on any of this. She just wanted her son to swim. But now, people were watching, listening, and Jasmine realized maybe that wasn't a burden. Maybe it was a responsibility. The next day was warm again. Kids played in yards. Sprinklers turned back and forth. Jasmine took Landon for a walk before dinner, hoping it would help both of them settle their thoughts. At one corner, a woman she'd never seen before waved them down. She was holding the hand of a little girl about Landon's age. "Excuse me, are you Jasmine?" she asked, a bit nervously. Jasmine nodded. "I just wanted to say thank you," the woman said. "We moved in a couple months ago, and honestly, I've been too nervous to even go to the pool with my daughter. After seeing what happened yesterday and how you handled it, it gave me hope. You spoke for more of us than you know." Jasmine was taken aback, but grateful. She smiled. "Thank you. That means a lot." Landon and the little girl exchanged shy glances and then ran off to a patch of grass nearby, laughing as they chased each other. For a moment, it felt like how it was supposed to be. Simple, joyful. When they returned home, Jasmine opened her laptop. She typed slowly, carefully. A note for tomorrow's HOA meeting. "I never asked to become a voice for anyone. I just wanted to swim with my son. But when people are treated as if they don't belong, when children are made to feel lesser, you realize silence is no longer an option. What happened at the pool wasn't just about us. It was about who we are as a community and who we want to be." She paused, then typed one more sentence. "This isn't about shaming anyone. It's about shaping something better." As she saved the file, she heard Landon's footsteps padding softly down the hallway. "Mom," he whispered, standing in the doorway of her bedroom, rubbing one eye. "Are you still mad about the pool?" Jasmine smiled gently. "No, baby. I'm not mad. I'm just thinking." He came over and sat beside her on the bed. "Are we still going to live here?" he asked. "Yes," Jasmine said, wrapping her arm around him. "We're not going anywhere. This is our home." He nodded sleepily and leaned against her. "Good. I like it here. Except for that lady." Jasmine chuckled softly, kissing the top of his head. Even people who get things wrong can change. Sometimes they just need someone to show them how. And in that quiet moment, Jasmine knew. She wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing it for every family who had ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. And tomorrow, she would speak not from anger, but from truth. Because the truth had already started something bigger than she ever expected. The community center lights buzzed quietly overhead, casting a soft glow over the room that now held more people than it probably ever had. Rows of chairs were filled. People stood along the back wall, arms crossed, some whispering, others just waiting. Even the board members looked surprised at how many showed up. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe guilt, maybe just the desire to say they'd been there. But they came. Jasmine sat near the front with her hands folded tightly in her lap, trying to keep her nerves from showing. She wasn't used to speaking in front of a crowd like this. In courtrooms, yes. At conferences, sure. But this was different. These were her neighbors. These were the same people she might see while walking her dog or picking up groceries. Some had smiled at her. Others had avoided eye contact. A few had pretended she wasn't there at all. Tonight, no one could pretend anymore. The HOA president, a tall man with a receding hairline and a voice that cracked slightly when he got nervous, stood at the podium. He cleared his throat. "Good," "Evening, everyone. Thank you for coming on such short notice," he began. "We called this emergency meeting in light of the recent incident at the community pool, which many of you have seen online or heard about." A few heads nodded. Others stared blankly ahead. The president shifted on his feet. "First, I want to say, we take this very seriously. Oakwood Estates is meant to be a safe, welcoming space for all of our residents. What happened at the pool doesn't reflect the values we say we stand for." Murmurs spread quietly across the room. Some skeptical, some supportive. Jasmine watched him closely. He was trying, but she could tell he wasn't used to this. His words felt careful. Not dishonest, just rehearsed. "And because this situation raised important questions about how we treat each other," he continued, "we'd like to open the floor to residents. Anyone who wants to share their perspective, their story, or their suggestions for change." He stepped aside. The room was quiet for a beat. Then someone stood. It was a woman from the far left row, mid-40s, wearing a soft green cardigan. Jasmine didn't know her name, but she'd seen her walking a golden retriever once or twice. "I just want to say," the woman said, her voice steady, "that I watched the video, and I cried. Not because I was surprised, but because I wasn't." There were quiet gasps. The room seemed to lean forward a little. "My husband and I moved here 8 years ago. We're both biracial. And in all that time, we've never been treated badly. But we've never really felt welcome either. It's the small things. The way people hesitate when we introduce ourselves. The way my kids get stared at during neighborhood events. And we never said anything. Until now." Someone else stood. Then another. One by one, stories came out. About assumptions. About awkward comments. About kids excluded from birthday parties. About neighbors who never waved back. And for the first time in a long time, people were really listening. Then the room quieted again. Everyone turned when Jasmine slowly stood. Her hands didn't shake as she walked toward the podium. But her heart was beating fast. She looked out over the room, and for a moment, she just let the silence sit there. "My name is Jasmine Thompson," she said clearly. "And yes, I'm the woman from the pool." There was a quiet ripple of acknowledgement. "I didn't come here tonight to shame anyone. I came to tell you what it felt like to have my child pulled aside and told, 'You don't belong here.' What it felt like to have someone look at your skin, your face, your presence, and decide you didn't fit." She paused. Her voice didn't waver. "We do belong. We always have. But the truth is, it shouldn't take a viral video or a crowd of witnesses for that to be believed." She scanned the room, letting her eyes meet those in the back, the ones still unsure. "This isn't just about racism. It's about how easy it is to look the other way when someone's being mistreated. About how silence can be just as loud as words." A few people lowered their eyes. Jasmine continued, "But I don't want to live in a place where people feel invisible. I want to raise my son in a community that actually sees him, celebrates him, welcomes all of us, not just on paper but in practice." Now the room was still. Even the air felt different. "I'm not asking for perfection," Jasmine added. "I'm asking for effort, for intention, for real change." She stepped away from the mic and returned to her seat. And as she sat down, something unexpected happened. People clapped, not loudly, not in a performative way. It was quiet, slow, but real. It spread row by row, some clapping with hesitation, some with conviction. The president cleared his throat again, this time with a different kind of tension in his voice. "Thank you, Jasmine. That was powerful." He turned to the board seated at the long folding table to his right. "Before tonight, we had already begun discussing next steps, but I think, after hearing what we've heard, we need to go further. He picked up a paper and read aloud. We propose a formal policy review of all HOA conduct and amenity guidelines to ensure they are fair, unbiased, and equally enforced. We will also hold a community-led diversity and inclusion seminar next month, open to every resident. Attendance is not mandatory, but strongly encouraged. Then he paused. And we'd like to invite Jasmine to help lead that seminar. The room murmured again. Jasmine looked up, stunned. She hadn't expected that. But as she glanced at Landon sitting quietly in the back with a neighbor, coloring with a borrowed pencil, she thought, maybe this is how change starts. Not all at once, not with anger, but with truth, with conversation, with showing up. As the meeting ended, people slowly approached her, some to say thank you, some to apologize, some just to say they were listening now, and Jasmine, though exhausted, smiled, because something had shifted. Oakwood Estates wasn't perfect, but tonight, it had taken a first real step toward becoming something better. Weeks had passed since the community meeting, but something in Oakwood Estates had shifted. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sudden, but it was there, subtle, like the first breeze before a summer storm. Quiet changes that you could only feel if you were really paying attention. People were trying. At first, it came in small ways. Neighbors who used to nod and walk away now stopped to talk. A man who never spoke to Jasmine before waved from across the street while mowing his lawn. Kids who once avoided Landon at the playground were now inviting him into their games. Even the pool felt different. No more second glances when Jasmine and Landon showed up. No more side-eyeing or whispered conversations. Landon jumped in the water with the other kids like he'd always belonged there, because he had. One afternoon, as Jasmine sat by the pool reading a book, she noticed something surprising. The woman from the pool, the same one who had called security weeks ago, walked in. She wasn't wearing her usual confident, commanding look. Her shoulders were slightly hunched. Her sunglasses stayed in place, even though the sky had turned cloudy. She set down her bag at the far end and sat quietly on a lounge chair. No entourage of friends. No loud greetings. Just her, alone, watching the water. Jasmine didn't stare, but she noticed. The next day, Jasmine received a message in the community Facebook group. A new post, written by that same woman. I've been thinking a lot about what happened at the pool, about how I reacted. And I realize now, I didn't listen. I didn't try to understand. I judged. I hurt a child. I hurt his mother. And I hurt this community. I'm sorry. I want to learn. I want to be better. It wasn't a long post. It wasn't perfect. But it was honest. The comments beneath it surprised Jasmine. Thank you for saying this. That takes courage. We all make mistakes. Owning up to them is what matters. This is what growth looks like. Let's keep going. And just like that, what had started as a confrontation was slowly turning into something more, a conversation. The seminar that the HOA had promised was scheduled for the following week. Flyers went out in mailboxes. An email reminder pinged every inbox. Jasmine was listed as one of the speakers, though she hadn't written a speech. She didn't want it to sound rehearsed. She just wanted to speak from the heart, the way she did at the meeting. The day before the seminar, a knock came at Jasmine's door. She opened it to find the woman from the pool standing there. No sunglasses this time. Just her, holding a small box of cookies. I wasn't sure if I should come, she said, but I wanted to say this in person. Jasmine raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. I was wrong, the woman continued, her voice soft and unsure. I let my fear, my assumptions, guide me. I didn't think about what it would feel like for you, or your son. And I can't take back what I did, but I can. Try to do better from now on. Jasmine looked at the woman for a long moment. She wasn't interested in revenge or shame. She was interested in truth, in effort. Doing better starts with showing up, Jasmine said. The woman nodded. I'll be at the seminar. Then she held out the box. I baked these. It's silly, I know. But, well, they're yours if you want them. Jasmine took the box. Thank you, she said. My son loves cookies. The woman smiled, a bit awkwardly. I'm learning, slowly. Jasmine nodded. So are we all. That night, she told Landon about the visit. She really came to say sorry? He asked, wide-eyed. She did, Jasmine replied, and she meant it. Landon thought for a second, then said, Do you think she's going to be nice now? Jasmine smiled softly. I think she's trying to be, and that's a good start. The day of the seminar arrived, and the community center buzzed with voices. Long tables were lined with fruit, coffee, and paper name tags. Chairs filled quickly. Not everyone came, but more than Jasmine expected did. And yes, she came too. The woman from the pool. This time she sat near the front. The facilitator, a calm, warm-toned speaker who worked with a civil rights group, welcomed everyone. He didn't scold, he didn't preach, he told stories, asked questions. He made people laugh at first, then made them think. They talked about bias, not just the obvious kind, but the kind that hides behind polite smiles and rules. They did small group exercises, shared stories, practiced empathy. At one point, the facilitator asked for volunteers. Jasmine stood. I used to think this kind of thing only happened in other places, on the news, in old books. But it happened to me. It happened to my son, right here, and it could have crushed us. But instead, it cracked something open, not just in us, but in this whole place. She looked around the room. We can either be the kind of community that avoids hard truths, or the kind that grows from them. When she sat down, the room was silent for a moment. Then a few people clapped, then more. It wasn't loud, but it was real. After the seminar, people stayed. They mingled, talked, shared food, laughed. Jasmine stood by the door, saying goodbye to neighbors as they left. The woman from the pool approached her again. Thank you, she said simply, for your patience, for your strength. Jasmine shook her hand. Thank you for showing up. That night, as Jasmine tucked Landon into bed, he looked up at her and whispered, Do you think people are really going to be different now? Jasmine thought about it. Some will, some won't, she said honestly. But today, I saw something real. I saw people trying. Landon smiled. I'm glad we didn't leave. Jasmine brushed a curl from his forehead. Me too, because Oakwood Estates wasn't perfect, but it was becoming something more than a place with nice lawns and quiet streets. It was becoming a home, one conversation at a time. The summer sun rose gently over Oakwood Estates, casting a golden glow on trimmed hedges, dewy grass, and sidewalks, where children's chalk art still clung to the concrete. It had been nearly 2 months since that afternoon at the pool, the day Jasmine stood up for her son, and unknowingly, for something much bigger than she imagined. In that time, things had changed, not everything, not everyone, but enough to notice. The community felt softer, more open. People smiled more. Not the polite kind of smile, the real kind. A few neighbors even stopped to introduce themselves, apologizing for taking so long to do so. One morning, as Jasmine walked Landon to the school bus stop, she passed by the woman who had once grabbed her son's arm. The woman was standing with a travel mug, waiting for her granddaughter. When she saw Jasmine, she didn't look away. She nodded. Good morning, she said. Jasmine nodded back. Good morning. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was peace. Later that day, Jasmine stood by her kitchen window, watching the wind move gently through the trees. She thought about how far they'd come, from fear and exclusion to apology and understanding. That weekend, the community held its first ever Unity Day. It was an idea that grew out of the seminar. Jasmine, along with a small volunteer team, organized it as a way to bring everyone together through food, stories, and shared space. The park near the pool had been transformed. Long tables were covered in dishes from different cultures: tamales, samosas, fried rice, cornbread, jerk chicken, pasta salad. There were music performances by kids from the local school. Blank walls had become art spaces where children painted. Messages like "kindness lives here" and "we all belong." Landon tugged on Jasmine's arm, pointing toward the face painting tent. "Mom, can I go be a tiger?" Jasmine laughed. "Only if I can be one too." Later, as she sat in a folding chair with orange stripes painted on her cheeks, she watched. The woman, yes, that woman, helping pass out lemonade. She wasn't leading. She wasn't commanding attention. She was just participating. Jasmine noticed her laughing with a group of neighbors. A little boy ran up to her, sticky from snow cone syrup, and hugged her legs. She bent down and wiped his mouth with a napkin, smiling. People change, and when they do, it means the story doesn't have to end with division. Sometimes it can end with understanding. Later that night, as the sun dipped low and paper lanterns lit up the path around the park, Jasmine took the microphone. She hadn't planned on speaking again, but something inside her said this was the right way to close the circle. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "A few weeks ago, I wasn't sure this was the right place for my son and me. I wasn't sure if we were truly seen here." She paused, looking around the crowd, faces glowing in the warm light, some familiar now, some still new. But what I've learned since then is that real community isn't about who has lived here the longest or who fits in the most. It's about how we show up for each other when it matters. She looked over at Landon, who was lying on a blanket, head resting on his backpack, watching the stars blink into the sky. Real change doesn't come from perfect people. It comes from brave conversations, honest reflection, and the willingness to do better. And I've seen that here. So thank you for listening, for growing, and for trying. A few people stood up and clapped. Others followed. It wasn't a performance. It was acknowledgement. That night, Jasmine walked home hand in hand with Landon. He was quiet, thoughtful. "Mom," he said, "do you remember when that lady didn't let me swim?" "I remember," she said softly. "But now, I think she likes me." Jasmine smiled. "Maybe. Or maybe she just finally saw you." "Really? Saw you?" He nodded, satisfied with that answer. As they reached their porch, Jasmine turned and looked back one last time. Oakwood Estates wasn't just where she lived anymore. It was truly becoming home. A home shaped not by walls or fences or even nice lawns, but by people choosing to be better neighbors, better listeners, and better humans. The story that started with exclusion ended in connection. And while no place is perfect, Jasmine knew this. They had changed something, together, and sometimes that's more than enough.